Thank you. You may be seated. The preamble to the Constitution of the State of Colorado. We, the people of Colorado, with profound reverence for the supreme ruler of the universe, in order to form a more independent and perfect government, establish justice, ensure tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the state of Colorado. Thank you. Okay, everyone's had a chance to look at the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second?
I have an item of discussion, please, before we vote.
Okay.
Down on, in the agenda, we have some action items. One is for resolution for youth pass BOCES. The other is resolution for a student cell phone use restriction policy. Before we vote and before I vote to in favor or against our agenda, I would like to know, is there going to be vigorous discussion and presentation on why we are leaving BOCES, and also about the policy for cell phone? Because I was hoping that those be a separate meetings, but since it's here, will we have open and vigorous conversation about that?
Let me speak to that. I will begin with background information, description of the need for each, and then I will read the resolution, and then we will go into discussion before we take a vote on it. Is that acceptable?
Yeah, yes, that would be.
Yes, I will open with some background information on this. Mr. Witt's going to speak to the cell phone program, but I will take care of the youth pass BOCES, and I'm going to read a description as to why this is coming up.
Okay.
All right?
And just so, just to make clear, I would have hoped these would have been at different meetings, but I understand that there's there's reasons with the BOCES, with Sue. Mrs. Patterson is our representative on BOCES. So.
I am too. I can
Oh, and
explain
you are
that.
too, so-
It happened in June, but we can talk about it.
Okay.
All right, very
All
good.
right. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions? Roll call.
Barkley.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Kimbrell.
Aye.
Patterson.
Aye.
Westerholt.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion passed. Okay, regarding public comment, please be aware that any personnel or individual student matters are considered confidential under Colorado law, and it is out of respect of the law and our employees and students that we require those discussions to take place privately in executive session. Individual comments are limited to 3 minutes or a total of 15 minutes total for a particular topic. The intent of public comment is to give the Board of Education the opportunity to hear your comments. However, the board will make no decision or take no action on public comments during this meeting. All right, Kelly, how many we got?
We have 4 people who have signed up, so all 4 will be able to speak. We'll
Very
still
good.
draw numbers and randomly you'll be chosen to speak.
Are we doing the community spotlight or are we?
Well, thank you for asking. We were going to have a community spotlight, and it was regarding the Purple Heart Trail. The person that is the representative for that isn't, I guess there's some health.
Good morning, or good evening, board members. It's Pastor Benson. I wanted to take a look at the district's general fund for the last year operations. Really don't know where to start. You publish this every month, but it's really shows a deficit of $5,269,000 through the first 10 months of the year, and that can't be right. We know that's not right, but it's the only thing that you do publish during the year. I doubt that 1% of taxpayers should understand it. So I took a look at your documents, what's available. General fund balance for the audit report, June 30th, 2022, that's your audit. Fund balance, $12,886,856. $12,000,008. That's for your audit report. General fund balance for your approved budget document that you approved as of fiscal year June 30th, 2024 in the June board meeting. $7,677,717. That means your deficit spending for the last 2 years has been $5,209,139. Now, if you're going to say these numbers are incorrect, so be it. You can do that. But they are your numbers. The more honorable thing to do would be to document how they are wrong and show me. I'm easy to find. And I've got copies of the district's data right here. Next thing I wanted to look at for a few minutes was, well, 1 minute and 27 seconds. Capital spending. There's no evidence of approval for payment for county door and hardware, $22,000. Job location, middle school, Merit Academy. Shoulder construction, $7,800,000. Past my bedtime. County door and hardware, $10,696. County door and hardware, $4,488. Anderson Enterprises, $5,798. $3,950. So no approval, but they were paid, okay? On your bidding procedures you discussed in June, someone said that the threshold for bidding was $25,000. Well, it's not, it's $10,000. You have a file on your policy website, file DJE bidding procedures. It discusses all of, it's 2 pages. It discusses all of your bidding procedures, enumerates the $10,000, cross-references to school board member conflicts of interest and that sort of thing. So with 11 seconds left, I'll just say that that's all I've got. Does anybody want this? Going?
I will take it.
Okay, good. Let me know if you have any questions, Mr. Bates. I'm real easy to find.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Aaron Hellstrom.
I'm getting all kinds of stuff.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening. I rise tonight to speak about something I find near and dear to my heart, and I think is vital to our community coming together, and that's our veteran community. When we look at our veterans, and by the way, we're the #2 county per capita of veterans in all 64 counties.
64%, I believe.
17, 18. This is
I mean, no,
2020
26,
census.
26%, I thought. But
Anyway,
anyway,
the 2020 census, it was 18%. And that's 3,539 veterans. Now, just to state the number one, county per capita had 292 veterans, so I'm just putting it into context. However, we have no World War II veterans, we have 291 Korean War veterans, 1,275 Vietnam War veterans, and we go on with the others. But this class of veteran is dying. We're losing 100 World War II vets a day. We're losing our Korean War and Vietnam veterans, and they have a history to tell. I was at the Library of Congress back in April, and the Library of Congress has a program that started back in 2000 called the Veterans History Project as part of the American Folk Life Center. And what they're doing is they're taking video, testimony, telling their story, or audio, and it's for children that are 15 and older. I am suggesting and asking that this board consider that we do it at the Memorial School and high school. When we were here for Veterans Day last school year, Mr. Kevin Bird asked all those students who had parents, brothers, sisters, family members who were veterans to please stand up. Over 80% of that student body stood up. When I look at that student body and I see that many veterans, families connected, and then I look at what we're doing, and it's nothing. The fabric of our society is being torn apart because the stories of veterans and what they have endured for this liberty for this freedom is not being told, and these children are being misled because they don't understand the sacrifice of family, friends, lives, fortunes, and future. These veterans have paid it all that we can have liberty. And I would ask that we take this on. There's a 24-page booklet on the Library of Congress, tells you how to do everything. It's got the releases, it's got the addendums, and it walks them through how to do it. Very simple. Doesn't take a teacher any time except to print it out. You can even fill it out online. But we need to engage our veteran community. We are losing history, and it's not being told. And these children will do these stories and then submit them to the Library of Congress to forever be there. And then our history of what's been done will not be lost. I also think it's vital that our society, our children, understand the sacrifices that have been paid for this country. I'll just do a Pew Research report. And today we have 18.3 million veterans. Might I have a minute more?
You may.
Thank you. 7.8 million, 43% are Gulf War era. 5.6 million, or 30%, are Vietnam War era. 767,000, 4% are Korean War veterans. And only 120,000 World War II vets remain. We've lost a lot of history. And we have people tearing at the fabric of our society, saying that we should allow these children are innocent. It's our job to protect them. If a child can't smoke, drink, drive, shoot at the age of 5, 7, 10, 12, then there's no way they should make a decision to change their gender because they have no understanding of their life impact, of what that will do. I believe veterans can help change this by bringing some meaning to what life is about and passing on stories and history.
This has been a really
In
long time
1980,
past its time.
18% of adults
President.
were vets.
Can you please
In
hurry this on? This
1980.
has nothing to do
And
with
I'll
education.
end with, in 2022,
This
only
has nothing to
6%
do
of
with
adults are
education.
veterans. 18% in 1980 when I was growing up were vets. Today, only 6% are vets.
Thank
This
you,
is a
Mr.
dying
Hellstrom.
breed. Thank you very much. And I stand ready to answer or to provide anything that the board would like or want to know. And the Library of Congress is very helpful in its history. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Gail Garrett.
The start of another school year and more losses because of our superintendent's inept leadership. Loss of 2 schools, loss of our middle school, loss of our good dedicated teachers, loss of confidence and respect of our district, scoring 27% on a survey, loss of families moving because the district no longer provides good public education, loss of students going to other districts, loss of friendship for some elementary schools as they are shipped to new schools, loss of healthy classroom environment as some classes become overcrowded, loss of professional financial activity as the district stands firm on controlled, limited transparency, loss of the professional CFO accounting that was the norm before this administration. But hopefully there will be the loss of the sales tax funding because of the district's willful disregard when asked to do monthly online accounting, which the taxpayers are asking for. Related to financial loss, Ken Witt admitted he did not know accurate figures related to transportation. Transportation costs over $1 million, with Merit Academy contributing nothing for their full services. Since Merit paid off a loan of over $350,000 this year, which you could not see in their budget anywhere, they can now afford to pay their fair share of transportation costs instead of parents being asked to pay more. With Merit having a probable 25% of the student population, their share would be around $250,000. That's $250,000 that could be spent on public school students.
Our last speaker, Shannon Valero.
Kind of got crooked here.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I would like to address the action item tonight labeled Resolution Ute Pass BOCES presented by Mr. Bates. The concern I have as a parent with a student that receives special education services is that there has never been anything discussed about Ute Pass BOCES in the recent board meetings or to parents of students that a resolution could impact their kids. Recently, Mr. Witt sent out an email to the Woodland Park School District staff. In the email, it stated, quote, "We will make a positive difference in the lives of every student entrusted in our classrooms by the real owners of their education, their parents." That would be great if the parents were included in the big decisions that affect our kids. I understand that we may not always agree, but parents want to be involved with the decisions that impact their kids, our kids. Last Wednesday, the Ute Pass BOCES met with the special education parents of Woodland Park School District. In that meeting, parents spoke of not feeling welcome at the school. The principals at the meeting ensured that they want the parents of special education students to feel welcome and involved. Days later, this agenda came out, and once again, we feel left out of decisions involving our students. We have no idea what y'all are voting on tonight. Please try including the parents before you vote on issues so we have a chance to contact you as our representatives. I'm speaking on Ute Pass BOCES, but the same thing could be said about the cell phone policy you are voting on. I'm just asking for action items to be presented publicly before the board votes. We knew Manitou was pulling out of BOCES in May, and nothing has been said about what was going to go on with Woodland Park, but I guess y'all are voting on that tonight. So parents, we want to be involved in that. These are our kids. They're our special education kids, the most vulnerable we have out here. So it would be nice to be involved in that. We're the owners of our kids' education. So please, thank you.
Thank you. Is that it, Kelly?
That is it, sir.
Okay, thank you. Next item, the consent agenda. I'm sure you've all had a chance to look at it. Have I got a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Barkley. Aye. Bates.
Aye.
Kimbrell. Aye. Patterson. Aye. Rusterholt.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, on to action items. This will speak to our last speakers. Thank you, Ms. Guaro. Okay. Some background information. Upon the Manitou Springs passage of a resolution to withdraw from the Ute Pass BOCES, and in recognition of the extremely limited value of the continuance of the Ute Pass BOCES, with only Woodland Park and Cripple Creek Victor School District RE1 as members, superintendents of all three member districts of the Ute Pass BOCES have recommended dissolution of the Ute Pass BOCES. Woodland Park will immediately apply to be our own administrative unit. And this decision was made per consensus from the superintendents of all three schools. Now, like I said before, I'm going to read the resolution and then we'll open it up for discussion. Okay, dissolve the Ute Pass BOCES. Whereas the Woodland Park School District RE2 is a member of the Ute Pass BOCES pursuant to CRS 22-5-1041. The Ute Pass BOCES serves as the administrative unit for members Woodland Park School District RE2, Manitou Springs School District 14, and Cripple Creek Victor School District RE1. Occasionally referred to collectively as members of, or individually as member and. Whereas pursuant to CRS 22-5-1123 A Board of Cooperative Services may be dissolved by the resolution upon the completion of all contracts or upon other adequate discharge of its obligations. And whereas the UPass Board of Cooperative Education Services, the UPass BOCES, bylaws provide in relevant part, the board shall have perpetual existence, but in the event of its dissolution, all of its assets shall be divided among member school districts on a prorated basis determined by the board. No part of the net earnings of this organization shall ensure to the benefit of any private shareholder or individual. And whereas the UPass BOCES and the members are parties to a memorandum of understanding dated August 8th, 2023, the MOU, and whereas the MOU provides in relevant part 4C, letter C, dissolution. Should a member district seek to form their own administrative unit or join another BOCES, they will follow the AU reorganizational rules and procedures as outlined in the Rules for Administration of the Exceptional Children Education Act, ECEA 1-CCR-8-3.013, and each member district will declare its intent to apply to the State Director of Special Education for reorganization through members board resolution to the BOCES board in May prior to the September 1st deadline. 2, the BOCES board will the UP BOCES board will discuss the aforementioned resolution at the third quarter work session to seek clarity and understanding to create next steps held June 20th of 2024. Now, therefore, pursuant to the above understandings, we, the Board of Education of the Woodland Park School District, RE2, hereby declare the Woodland Park School District, RE2, intent to effective the 2025-2026 fiscal year. Dissolve the UPass Board of Cooperative Education Services, the UPass BOCES, and apply with the Colorado Department of Education for a Woodland Park Independent Administrative Unit. That is the resolution. Now it's open for discussion.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Just for the sake of the public, I think that the people whose students are involved and teachers who are part of BOCES and have the benefits or are involved with it know what BOCES is. I would think that a lot of our community may not know, but they're interested in knowing what's going on at the school. What is BOCES? How does it, what are the features, the advantages, benefits of it? So if somebody could explain what is BOCES for the public.
Sue, would you be willing to do that? You've been on BOCES for quite some time.
UPass BOCES provides special education for all 3 districts, Manitou Springs, Woodland Park, as well as Cripple Creek. We have contracted Marcy Palmer. She is the director of the SPED. She is involved in all 3 schools. Each school plays their part. I believe we have had the majority of the special ed students since we are the biggest district.
Mm-hmm.
However, is with all of this, back in May, Manitou Springs came to the BOCES board and viewed their concerns that they would like to pursue or be an administrative unit of their own. So we had that meeting, we discussed the details. Then Cripple Creek and Victor followed up that they wanted to pursue to be a part of another BOCES. Well, BOCES doesn't exist with one school in the district. So our hands are tied. We were hoping that Cripple Creek and that we could stay together and provide the services, but the state will not allow us to be contracted to have a BOCES with only one school. So our hands are tied here. We have no choice but to go forward and file the paperwork to be our own administrative unit. all three schools must have their intentions into the Colorado Department of Education by the 1st of September. And the three districts agreed that the solution was to dissolve the BOCES, and I can't speak for Manitou or Cripple Creek, but we have to apply for administrative unit as on our own. And I believe the state has 60 days to approve any of this. But the simple fact is we can't exist as a BOCES with the other two schools wanting to pursue other avenues.
Russell Holt, she hardly answered.
Sir,
Can I,
this is not public speaking time.
ask a follow-up question? So when did we know that Cripple Creek was pulling out?
In June, late June.
Late June.
It was the June 20th meeting, and so there was a work session that was on there. And when that happened, all the superintendents were also on that, and so they started talking about it as if this was going to happen. And so the confusion, I think, for most people, is this going to happen this year? This is not for this year, so this year it will remain the same, but it will be for the year 2025 to 26. But since the state requires us to have all this information in, Cripple Creek was like, you know, we're just gonna go ahead and file the paperwork, which left us to go ahead and do the paperwork as well.
In the future, as the representatives of BOCES, obviously if BOCES dissolves, we won't, that's not necessarily an issue, but as a request for, as a board member who's not on these other meetings, when this type of information comes out, could you send a message to the entire board? Because this is the first I'm hearing that Cripple Creek has pulled out, which I think is
Oh my gosh.
kind of an interesting way to.
Sir, if you speak out again, I'm gonna ask you to
To
leave.
your board members.
This is not your meeting,
That's why we're
sir.
talking now. But I understand
Yeah,
sending
I mean,
an
I
email,
would-
you're asking for like an email. I think Sue is gonna.
Yeah,
sorry,
prior
Sue.
to action items, we should have the information. Like, it seems strange for us to have this background information right now when the action item is here, that it should have been presented either as part of the board packet, the email, their resolution to pull out, Manitou's resolution to pull out should have been in the packet, or we should have gotten emails with the information ahead of time.
I believe it hasn't been that long since we received Cripple Creek's official withdrawal.
I don't even, I've seen it officially, but we had that discussion, so there was more of a discussion on the work session, but I haven't seen their official, which they might not even come until they have their board meeting.
So is there a possibility that we approve this resolution and then Cripple Creek does not?
For their own, I don't think so.
They've stated their declarations in meetings with the UPS.
We already have their declaration that's going to be submitted to the state.
Well, that's what I just asked for, and you said you didn't have it yet.
No, I said
I
we
don't
just
personally.
received it recently is what I said.
Okay.
There's a little confusion here, if I may speak for a moment.
Yes.
A little confusion here about the difference between a resolution and a declaration. They have declared their intent. There is no resolution.
Can you please
from them.
speak into your mic?
Okay.
I can't hear you.
And all of these, the intentions, they have to be filed to the state by the 1st of September. So all this has been recent, and I've been speaking to Marcy on a weekly basis. And tomorrow night, you're all invited right here, 5:30. And Marcy is going to read the resolution for the actual BOCES. This is our resolution for Woodland Park. Tomorrow night, the resolution for the BOCES, the UPass BOCES will be discussed.
Will that be announced?
It's here at 5:30.
How is the rest of the community supposed to know?
It's been posted.
Where?
Where?
Posted right out there on the,
You have to come into the school to see it?
I'm just saying it's posted out there. I did see it there. I don't know if it's on the UPass BOCES website or not.
That is not acceptable.
And I believe
Sir,
and
I've asked you now 2 or 3 times to be quiet. If you speak out one more time, I'm gonna ask you to leave. Do you understand me? Sir, do you understand me? Well, I'll take that as a yes. One more time, I'm gonna ask you to leave.
Marcy's been very transparent with with this whole. Marcy is our representative for the BOCES. She is the go-to. She is the person with the boots on the ground for the BOCES, and our hands are tied. We have no choice but to follow through with this. It has to be done by September 1st.
Can I, just playing devil's advocate for sake of explanation, if we don't dissolve it and everyone else does and we miss the September 1st deadline, what are the consequences for that?
Go ahead.
The school district is required to have an administrative unit. The Colorado Department of Education definition of an administrative unit is the place where the buck stops for the provision of special education services. There are two forms of the provision of special education services supervised by an administrative unit. The first form is to be a member of a BOCES, which is an administrative unit, in which case the district does not have to be an administrative unit because they rely on the administrative unit status of their BOCES of which they're a member. The second case is a district may be its own administrative unit, which is more common with larger school districts, and smaller school districts often form BOCES with a group of members. If we did not apply to be our own AU, and both Cripple Creek and Manitou Springs attempted to pull out, there were two possible outcomes. None of this is guaranteed. The CDE may deny their attempt to withdraw. They can do that. If we had no other alternative, that would be something they would consider. But we're big enough to be an AU without any, be our own administrative unit without any problem. So they would probably have that conversation about, well, are you going to stand up an administrative unit, or are you going to be are we going to maintain the UPass BOCES and force the other districts to be members? They actually have the option of doing both of those. We don't want to force members when people don't want to be members. So our better course of action, and in fact, the only one that makes sense for us, is to stand up our own administrative unit. But those are the possibilities.
Okay, so there's, just to clarify, there's no negative consequence for Woodland Park School District for not passing this, other than maybe burning some bridges, because we would then be forcing possibly the CDE's hand in requiring the other two schools to stay?
We could be forcing their hand. It's not entirely clear what they would do in that case. This doesn't happen very often.
Okay. And then if we don't do this, the CDE accepts their resignation, and then we're still the only school in the BOCES. What does that mean?
We can't.
Colorado statute requires that a BOCES be composed of membership, which includes two school districts,
Right.
potentially more, and institutes of higher education.
So if the CDE approves their resignation from the BOCES, does that automatically mean they would tell us we're our own administrative unit?
No, it would force a decision, and then there would be a dialogue, and we'd have to figure that out. I think it would be better for us to be in control of our path than to get in that situation. But that's my opinion.
I do have another question. What was the benefit of being part of the BOCES? And then my follow-up to that is, if we do pass this resolution to leave, then what will replace it? What will that look like, being our own administrative unit?
Please. You asked three questions. I'm going to try and take them in order. The first question was, what is the benefit of being a member of a BOCES? And the answer is, you either must be your own administrative unit, or you must rely on the services of another administrative unit, which is typically a BOCES. There is actually a third possibility, which not very many people do, but it is possible for one school district to contract the administrative unit services from another school district, but that could get really muddy and difficult. But nonetheless, you join a BOCES so that you have an administrative unit if you don't want to be your own. So it's a question of critical mass. In the case of Woodland Park, The benefit of being a member of the BOCES is significantly diminished by the fact that we have the special education instructors as our own employees. They're not employees of the BOCES. The BOCES provides administrative support. So we would need to hire a sped director. And other than that, we would, as we always do, hire our own special education service providers. So there's not much of a change, which is why I say in our case, it's a fairly easy process. It's a fairly easy path to take. Nothing's easy, but it's the most direct path to take. So that's what's the benefit of being a member of a BOCES? And then you asked, what would it look like for us? Did I get that right?
Yeah, what will replace it?
Yeah.
How will that be replaced?
I'm sorry, I oversimplified the question, but yes. What would it look like for us? This is where the question of you pass BOCES, a BOCES, or be your own AU is a choice, right? In our case, I think I kind of half answered that just a moment ago. In our case, it would be hiring an oversight and administrative support resource because we already have the special education employees, which we just have to continue to have, but we would add the administrative resource comparable to paying the BOCES to do that, right? Because that costs us something now as well. So it would look very similar for us. And it would look almost identical if Manitou Springs were to pull out because it would be pretty much just be us and a handful of other children.
So are you saying that our special education students, our special needs students, will be receiving the same benefits as if we were part of BOCES?
The same services from the same staff, with the exception of administrative oversight.
The only change, and so just so I understand, is that the only change is what entity is administrating the special education program?
That's right in the Woodland Park case, that is correct. Now, I do want to be clear, just because you said it very carefully, so I now need to be very careful not to create any misimpressions. Of course, staff changes. If we dissolve the BOCES and we hire and we maintain our own staff, the 2 or 3 staff that they have could go somewhere else, or we can hire them. And that's not entirely in our control. So there will be some staff change, of course,
So which,
but not the special education service providers. The teachers are our own employees. Okay. Yes.
are there any special education services that our current students receive today and this year that would not be available with the dissolving of the BOCES?
No, actually.
It's more administration, so, sorry.
Could you repeat that question, because I didn't quite
I was
get it.
just, so I know some of the benefit of BOCES is that if a school district doesn't have a specific teacher or program in that building, you can send them to the other building. So my question was, are there any students in the Woodland Park School District who are currently going to other buildings to receive services that would no longer be available to them if the BOCES, UPass BOCES is no more?
Can you specify other buildings?
Other school, are we sending kids to Manitou or Cripple Creek to receive those?
Yeah. No. Actually, it's the opposite. Woodland Park has the center programs that the other districts send their children to typically. We are the largest, and we provide most of the services that are special.
Yeah.
So Manitou Springs sends their special needs students here.
It's very rare.
Okay.
But the point is, you're asking which way do they go? Do they go somewhere else? No, actually, the others come to us for the very specialized service.
Yeah.
So again, we're in the strongest position to be an administrative unit.
Any other questions?
So to be clear, the reason that we're having this resolution and not waiting for the state to take action on it is because the other 2 members, as I understand, have the intention of leaving BOCES, and if we remain, that could be a hurdle for them, or make it difficult for them to leave, because the state's going to come in and say, yes, you can, or no, you can't. Am I understanding it correctly?
Not the reason, but a reason amongst several.
Okay.
Well, one of the considerations.
So if we resolve to leave BOCES, then everyone is in control of their own destiny.
Exactly.
And our special needs students and Manitou Springs and Cripple Creek they will still come here, or is that all up in the air? Or
That is up to them, and they each have their plans. We are not speaking for them, but they
Okay.
each have a plan.
Okay.
Everyone needs to understand that Manitou Springs started this effort, and then Cripple Creek jumped on board. So we have no other option but to be our own administrative unit. We're gonna have to bring some administrators in, but like Ben already said, we are the biggest school of the three. They come to us, so there's not a downside to us applying to be our own administrative unit.
Okay.
Okay?
So would you say that we currently receive no benefits from being part of the UPass BOCES?
We pay for administrative services, which we have appreciated.
Okay.
But if they're no longer available, there's no benefit to trying to continue.
So what's the cost difference for us to be our own administrative unit as opposed to being part of the BOCES?
I don't have numbers in front of me, but I suspect that we will benefit substantially financially of being.
Do you know what we currently contribute?
No, I should ask a BOCES board member, but I don't know.
I don't know the financials.
Point is, we would hire one special education director as opposed to the contracting that we do with the UPass BOCES and the IDEA funding, which is currently distributed and some of which, a significant bit of which is consumed by the UPass BOCES.
Can you speak into your mic?
Or I am speaking in my mic. I apologize. It's about as loud as I can get. We spend more with the UPass BOCES than we will with our own services.
So we'll save money and we won't lose any services for our students.
Any other questions?
Would we look to, since we've already got relationships with some of the BOCES employees, would we look to retain some of them or pull them into our unit?
Most of the special education service providers are already our employees. The administrative people certainly will have conversations. Remembering, of course, that Marcy Palmer has already submitted her resignation, her retirement at the end of the year, at the end of next year.
She has spoke of retirement for a few years, and so I think she even wanted to last year, and we were like, no, stay, we love you, so she ended up staying, but knowing that the other schools were pulling out, it would be very fair to say that she would be retiring, but the other administration, it's up in the air.
Okay, roll call, please.
We need a motion and a second on the resolution first.
Motion to approve a resolution to dissolve the UPass BOCES and apply with the Colorado Department of Education for Woodland Park Independent Administrative Unit. That is the motion.
So moved. Second.
Second. Okay, but now roll call.
Barclay.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Kimbrell. Aye. Patterson.
Aye.
Rusterholz.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, the next item, and I just pulled my pen out of it. Let me find the pen.
I will say if there's any questions when we get our board packets, definitely reach out to the BOCES president prior to.
Yeah. Okay, next item B, the revised 2024-2025 board meeting schedule. There is only one change to that. The meeting that was scheduled for January 8th of 2025 is now being moved to January 15th for our regular board meeting. And that is just to allow some extra time to get agendas and packets out. Do I have a motion to approve? So moved. Second?
Second.
Roll call? Who seconded? Sorry, I heard about 3 people. Thank you. Roll call, did you say roll call, sir?
Yes.
Okay, Barclay? Aye. Bates?
Aye.
Kimbrell?
Aye.
Patterson? Aye. Rusterholz?
Aye.
Okay, on to item C. Student cell phone use restrictions, and Mr. Witt, you're going to speak to this?
Absolutely. It's here. You get much closer. But I'll do what I can. So The current trend broadly in the state is to restrict cell phone usage in classrooms. There is significant research out there showing that the distraction level in classrooms with cell phones, texting, surfing, whatever, is significantly reducing the amount of instructional learning from the instruction that's going on in the classroom. We've seen a number of school districts, Rush, D11, Cherry Creek, both overtly pass resolutions or policy to then implement practice or procedure to restrict cell phone use. We believe that there's clear evidence that it's having a significant impact on the learning of students. It also results in increased bullying and other issues in classroom, not just for the user, but the distractions also for those around the user. So Woodland Park has actually already had some restriction of cell phone use. We have classrooms where students come in and put their phones in a shoe pouch kind of thing, sit down, have their classes, and when they leave, they take it back out. It's very likely that that will be the outcome of the procedure to continue, but just make it consistent across the schools. But I'm not committing to that because we're working with the principals and the teachers to get it right. But we do want to restrict cell phone usage. There's clear evidence that it makes a difference in the learning of students, and it's becoming a very common practice. So we feel like it's time to take action for this school year, which is why we're having a conversation now.
With that being said, let me read the resolution to restrict student cell phone use in school. Whereas the Woodland Park School District RE2, located in Teller County, Colorado, is committed to providing a safe educational environment laser focused on academic success. Whereas research and experience of educators give overwhelming evidence that cell phone use in classrooms is a distraction to instruction with significant negative impact on learning. Whereas many schools and school districts in Colorado and nationally have shown that cell phone restriction is feasible and results in better academic outcomes for students. Now, therefore, be it resolved, we, the members of the Board of Education of Woodland Park School District, RE2, hereby direct the superintendent to develop administrative policy and procedures to eliminate student cell phone use in classrooms, except when directed by the teacher as part of an instructional program or as an exception when verified as necessary for medical monitoring. Okay, discussion.
So, as a parent with children, I am actually not opposed to restricting cell phone use in the classroom. But as far as this resolution is concerned, I had two things I just wanted to mention. One, again, I think it probably would have been a good idea to get some feedback from other parents prior to putting a resolution on the agenda. And then the second thing, for this actual resolution, I'd like to just make a change if it's amendable, so that would be a motion once we get to that point. But to revise it, that we direct the superintendent to develop the administrative policy, just to change develop to the word draft. And then this way we can take a look at it before it is actually put into motion.
I have a question, kind of follow up on that as the draft and procedure. You had said, Mr. Witt, you had said that the administration and teachers, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. What steps, have any steps been made other than conversation about this? Have you discussed this with administration, with teachers? Is there any kind of background that you can tell us about?
Yes, thank you. I would give more detail in discussion. We didn't have a motion and a second yet, so I was holding back on that, but let me address that. Thank you for
Well,
that.
has there been a second?
There hasn't been
There's
a motion
been a
yet.
motion.
Usually
there
it's
has not
like
been a motion?
first, a second, then discussion, I think.
Okay, well, let's just back up a little bit then. Do we have a second?
Second.
Well, we need the motion first.
Do we need the motion?
Well, I just read the motion.
Yeah, but you gotta make a motion.
Someone has to make it.
I have a first, second.
Sorry, I jumped the gun.
Okay, student cell phone use restrictions. I need a motion to approve the resolution to restrict student cell phone use in school after second and I'm sorry, sound like somebody else. Do we have a second? So moved. A second.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
already have a question on the table, if it's all right, may I respond to that?
Please do, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about this. We have spent some time with the administration, talking through this with principals over the summer. They have been working together to advise on what they believe are classroom practices that will work effectively. They know their schools pretty well. The fact that we're already doing this in a number of classrooms means that they're pretty well informed on practice that works and what's been found acceptable. We met with the Chamber of Commerce and discussed this to expose it to the community. We met with the new teachers leading into this year to talk about it and encourage them to talk to their principals. Teachers aren't back until today. Actually, convocation just started today, so there'll be more teacher input at this point. That's why we didn't put forth the policy without having an opportunity for the administration to kind of finalize what they believe is the right answer. So yes, we've had a community meeting. No, we haven't had a ton of them, but we've started that process. Yes, we've talked about it extensively through the school administration. And yes, we're already doing it. So we have some pretty good knowledge already about what works and what does not work. A couple of the primary concerns that come up that I do want to address in this. The first one is, in the event of an emergency, I don't want my child to not be able to get to a phone. That's why the pouch is in front of the room rather than something locked up or something put away in a locker that they can't get to. In the event of a real crisis, they could get to their phones in the room. In a non-crisis, if a parent wants to chat with their child or pass a message, that level of interaction in the classroom is actually part of the problem we're trying to fix. You want to make certain that the children are corresponding and casual communication outside of the classroom, not in the classroom. And the pouches are a safety consideration. So that's why we're doing the pockets. Now, they also have locking pouches, which were discussed by the administration as well. Quite frankly, the cost there is prohibitive for Woodland Park. We don't believe that's the best answer because the pouches work adequately. But I did want to give a little background.
That's interesting because that was sort of my question, because I've read other schools across the nation have these locked couches where kids would have to go and like scan them. And so some of the concern is like, what if something happens? They have to run to these scanners, scan them, open them. So having them in pockets, which some of our schools were, classrooms were already doing, I found out last year, it's just easy. If they had an emergency, they can run and get those phones. Okay, so that's, okay, good.
Can you explain the pouches? Is like each child has their own pouch and the teacher has all these pouches at the
Well,
front?
there's
Yeah,
a
it's like a
lock that
device.
the teacher has the code to open any of the pouches. However, this accomplishes the same objective because the teacher has control of these cell phones in these pockets, visual control. And so the pouches aren't necessary. Complaints people have had about the pouches, if you did have a crisis, that it'd be time consuming to get everyone's pouches open to call someone. So I think this is the better alternative. And in the research, there are some schools that make the students lock them up in lockers for the day. They will have their phones between classes should there be something important, like my wife called 15 minutes ago 3 times. I hope it's nothing serious. So I don't know if that helped, but
I saw a news not even to this, it was a year or a year and a half ago, and they were talking about those pouches. So the kids, every time they walked into the school, they had some device, grabbed a pouch, or they needed to leave, then they would scan it. So if there was an emergency, they would have to go to these designated areas. But they also said they were costly too, so.
Yeah, I mean,
One
I've
of my
seen people
questions-
just use like baskets and everybody
Yeah.
straps their phone into just a
Or a pouch.
plastic basket at the front of the class.
So my question was going to be like, what are we looking at on the costs? And so I like the fact that we're not going to be investing in these things and they're still there and easily accessible for children or and students that just need to get them in case of these emergencies.
Now, it seems very obvious to me, I don't know, but if I had kids in school, knowing how distracting cell phones are, I would do the same thing that my kids do, is before there was a rule at the school, you shut off your phone when you get to school, you lock it in your locker, and you can only get it out at lunch. This is no cost to the school. And the school still has a secretary that answers the phone for emergencies and can page a teacher or a student. We have that here. So why all the discussion about pouches and locks and access when put the phone in your locker, you're not going to die without the phone unless there's some emergency extenuating circumstance. Just put it in the locker, turned off, and get it out at lunch. It's a distraction between class. I know that there's bullying that goes on during class, between class, and all this with cell phones and texting and whatever, social media. Why is this not a consideration, shutting it off, leaving it in the locker? It's plain and simple and costs nothing.
Yes, go ahead, I'm sorry.
My guess from some of the papers and stuff I was reading with the pouches, it said in there that parents like to text their children. So not only is it just students texting and the bullying, it's a huge portion is parents just wanting to touch base with their kids. And so I think they like that in between class touches, but like when they're in the classroom, they need to have it off. So this is sort of I would think a solution in the middle for that. You could speak more to it.
I'll add one more piece of color. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when kids didn't have cell phones, we also didn't have school shootings. And school shootings have greatly increased parent sensitivity.
How dare you? How dare you?
Quiet.
Take that.
Sir, it's time for you to leave.
How dare you?
In this environment, parents are much more sensitive to the reality of if a crisis, I want to make sure my child can get to their phone.
Yeah. And
This does-
it's like a middle ground.
This is middle ground. Thank you, Cassie. Because, it's not half a day and then you have a little window and then another half a day. There's room between classes to have some communication. I think that's going to make the parents feel a little better, and it's a start. We'll see how that goes and make adjustments as necessary. But I personally think it's a good starting point.
Well, I certainly wouldn't vote against it. I would. Yeah.
But what?
I would want my kids to have it in the
Superintendent
locker
Witt
because I know
said-
how distracting they can be.
But having in the locker, like I said, it goes back to that parent touch piece. And so with everything that's gone on in the last 10 or 20 years, the parents want to be able to have that communication despite, just sending them a cell phone that they pay thousands of dollars for just to have in their school lockers. So
I would say that this is a good, that's not something that would cause me to vote against it because I think that they are a bane to education as far as in the classroom.
Any other comments?
I have another comment. So this specifically says to direct the superintendent to develop an administrative policy and procedure to eliminate cell phone use in the classrooms. So what will the next step be? So we are directing you if we have an affirmative vote here, to develop the plan. Once the plan has been developed, what is next step?
The district is ready to implement what I just described, the pouch system, and with the lower grades, perhaps just allowing the teacher to either have a pouch or keep it in your backpack and keep it out in your hand. For small children, that may work. But the point is, they're willing to implement, and they'd like to implement at the start of school because it's hard to change practice after school has started, which is why they've asked that, can you please get the resolution passed so we can start this if we're going to do it this year? I'm comfortable with that, I think, because they've worked it out. I'm comfortable with that. Having said that, the policy would be posted within 5 to 10 days. They will test it out, and if either the board doesn't like the policy or you're hearing a lot of feedback and you want to push back on the policy or ask for changes, you know what it is, and you can certainly do that in the future. What I would ask that you not do is ask us to hold off with school starting and do nothing until we approve a policy in the future.
Well, I would like to see something implemented. I think it's wise to start it right at the beginning of the year. But like after a month or so, I would like to have presented to the board a written policy that we can see and say, yeah, this is great. We'd like this changes. We want you to add that. I would like to see that.
The policy would absolutely be posted. I'm happy to present it to the board.
But you would need the policy because
Yeah, but we
with
need it to
school
start.
starting,
Right. Well,
we
we
need to
need-
have it.
absolutely.
Yes, we need this resolution to start that
September.
process.
We don't
Now,
want the teachers.
Mr. Witt said that, you know, something would be available within 10 days. You're asking to wait for 30 days to see if there are any necessary changes?
Whatever's working out.
You said that was okay? I apologize, I misunderstood.
So there is a policy to bring it, present it next month.
Yeah, I would just like to
Yeah, that
have
would
it
be good.
presented for
Because
discussion
it's
again.
available.
But to answer Director or Barclays, just as far as the draft, you know, then if we had a draft, that wouldn't be at the start of the school. So having this with the teachers are.
It's
Well, so-
important to have it day one.
Yeah, and I agree that it should start, right? We have a few days. Do you think you could draft a policy before, what is it, next Wednesday? So you have a week?
And it sounds like we pretty
That we
much
could-
have.
Yeah, I think we're all
an idea.
generally on the same
Yeah.
page, just to take a look and see if there's anything, you know, an extra set of eyes or two, to see if anything else needs to be tweaked.
Yes, I just want to make certain that I've given our CAO, Ms. Slocum, and the principals time to agree that this is right now that we have some teachers on board.
But I think the other solution is if they have it, we can come back in September and say, is there something that we dislike or not like on it?
I appreciate the input from the principals, and some of the teachers already know, others will know soon. And so their input is valuable. Okay, anything else?
Oh,
Okay.
yes, I do have one more thing, as you just mentioned teachers. Is this voluntary for teachers, or is it going to be a school-wide, district-wide policy?
It's already voluntary for teachers. The point here is to make it a standard across
Okay.
the district.
Got it.
It will be policy.
And I think since some classrooms have already been doing this for a while, if having it across the board for all students, it becomes more of a habit and geared more to academics versus, but still leaving some of that just being lenient about, you know, students having those cell phones in between those like passing periods, so in case parents want to check on them.
Okay.
And reducing bullying throughout the classroom time, and so hopefully that will help as well.
So then I guess my last bit of input, since we don't have a draft, is just to say, I think we should go with the lowest cost option for this. A simple dollar store basket at the front of the room could be the solution.
If you don't mind, let me just speak to that very briefly. The disadvantage of a basket is other students handling other students' phones. The reason for pouches preferred over a basket is you know where yours is and you get yours out. You put yours in and you're not messing with other people's phones.
Okay.
The isolation actually is pretty important.
Well, if someone gets a cracked screen, first thing they're gonna do is blame the
Like somebody
basket.
else.
Okay.
Will we need an additional insurance policy since we're taking their phones away?
No, please read the last statement in the.
In the resolution.
Nope, it's not in the resolution. Yes.
I wasn't.
No, it was talking
We had
about
so many discussions about this.
exception with necessary medical monitoring.
Oh, that's right, I just talked about an exception. There will be a statement in the policy that the district is not responsible for damage to cell phones. That is commonly done across other school districts that have this policy.
I thought we had it in there, I read. So. Okay, so, a motion to approve the resolution to restrict student cell phone use in school after set.
We already have a first and a second. We already have a first and a second. So
Pardon?
Just ready for roll call.
Roll call.
Barkley. Aye. Bates.
Aye.
Kimbrell.
Aye.
Patterson.
Aye.
Russell.
Aye.
Kelly, I haven't been to a meeting for a month. I need retraining.
All good.
Okay, next item, Board of Education reports. Reports from anyone. Floor is open.
Well, we have,
Superintendent can speak to this, is next Monday, the 19th, our open house 4 to 7.
Ms. Slocum can give you the open house. I don't know if they vary by school or if it's all one night.
Yes, so elementary is 4 to 6, and then secondary is 5 to 7. So there's enough time to get to both if you need to.
Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's
I don't know
fine.
the schedule.
Yeah, I mean, I'm showing 4 to 7 that would be able to hit all of the schools.
Yeah, so between the entire school district from 4 to 7 next Monday.
Yeah,
You're all
thank
invited
you.
to come and tour the schools.
Anyone else?
We skipped over discussion and information, number 8, was that intentional, or can we put discussion and information into 9?
There's no agenda item. That's a category.
We don't have anything on it.
That's a category, not an agenda item. We have no discussion items tonight.
Okay, but it's listed as number 8, so, I mean, I'm not being contentious.
Well, but it doesn't have anything under it.
I see that. So
Standing item.
I will, okay, just clarify.
I want to speak briefly. We signed an intergovernmental agreement with the city back on March 26th. Both parties signed that agreement. There were some amendments that the city wanted to that IGA, to the original from 2016. They did all of the amendments and we agreed to them all. We had no conflict. Well, since the new city council went in, and much of this is repetitive, but now they're asking for some more amendments to the IGA. And we are openly listening to those. One is another tier of accounting backup and potentially doing the reporting quarterly. We had a meeting the 7th of this month, had a very cordial discussion, and I thought it went very well. And so tomorrow night at the city council meeting, there no doubt will be some questions. I will be there to respond to those questions with the attempt to wrap this up that night. The IGA will not be signed, but the amendments bill will be approved and we'll have a signable document. So it's been a pretty labor-intensive project. I'm sure there are people at the city that would like to put this behind them as well. So this is tomorrow night, and we'll see how that goes. I spoke with the city manager on Tuesday. He said nothing has changed as far as our discussion on the 7th. A couple of city council people did put an item on the agenda. If you have 2 or more people, you can add an agenda item or an ordinance or something. 2 board members did put an ordinance on there to do a first reading of putting it back on the ballot in November to re-vote on this intergovernmental agreement. But, back in 2016, the voters decided to do this because rather than all the taxes coming out of the voters' pockets, using the sales tax was genius, because then somewhere between 30 and 40% of that tax is paid by outsiders. I just learned that a big portion of that is Amazon shipping. I was just a little surprised to hear that. So, it would go back on the ballot, but should it fail, then we're right back to going for a mill levy override, which came up in 2016, and a group of people put this together and it was overwhelmingly passed. Having said all that, we'll just see how it goes tomorrow night at City Council. Like I said, I will be there and be prepared to the best of my ability to respond to any of the questions they might have. So just an FYI for all of you. Anything else?
Yes, I do have, for Board of Education report, I've had discussions with a number of employees in the school district and some parents and some curious people who are curious about some of the things that we've implemented and some questions. So I would like to ask, I think these are important things to just discuss so that the board knows what is going on a little bit better. We can hear from some people. So I'm just throwing it out there. My conversations, like the first one was on something that I like. I think it's real world. But I have questions, teachers have questions about the merit-based pay. And I'm just wondering, at a future meeting, could we schedule to have maybe how is it going? We're doing it this year. What does it look like? What are you hearing as administrators about it? What are teachers saying? What are principals saying about it? How can it be, does it need to be tweaked in any way? So that would be one of the things, because I've had a number of, and there have been important conversations with teachers. So that would be as a result of conversations throughout the district, if we could do that at a future meeting, not too far off. Then the other one, I just had another conversation about it yesterday, was about the transportation costs. Now, I know that there were some entries made under the wrong category that, or I might be misunderstanding the whole thing, but to clear up the transportation costs, because it's come up again, could we have just a brief explanation, or what is the actual transportation costs? Not even why, what are those, and what will they look like going forward is something that I would like to just ask that we have at a future meeting to clear up some of these cloudy areas. So that's basically it.
Well, we do have a new CFO coming pretty quick, and that's wonderful. We're excited about that. And so we can take a closer look at some things rather than just winging it here on some issues and possibly misspeaking. Anything else?
The only other thing I wanted to add was, again, kind of along the same line there of adding an agenda item just kind of continually, would be on like a personnel or a staffing item, so that the board is aware of how many positions are open at any one time, how long it's taking us in general to fill these positions, what positions are we having the most trouble with, and then just kind of what our, I guess, tactic or, are we actively trying to recruit them? Is it more passive recruitment? We just have a job posted somewhere. So we can discuss that and see if we can brainstorm any ways to improve it once we are tracking it and know what issues we're facing.
Okay, so you're hoping to come up with something like a staffing update or something
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
I did write it down. All right, is that it? All right, that being all, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I didn't say after second, you see that, did? I've got a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Barkley. Aye. Faith.
Aye.
Kimbrell. Aye. Patterson. Aye. Wester.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I just wait.
I don't want
You know
that.
it's her birthday, right? Yeah, so I gotta go back to town with my girl.
Good meeting.